Welcome to InfoStream, your daily current. Unsure what to listen to? Turn to us for today's headlines. Stay informed. Trump's Gaza deal impacts regional politics. Madagascar faces military coup. Dutch government seizes Nexperia. US-China trade war intensifies. Trump considers Ukraine missile support. BBC verifies Russia's fuel crisis. Tories pursue prosecution cases. China spy case sparks controversy. ASEAN facilitates Thailand-Cambodia peace. Cameroon election faces challenges. Kenyan police officer killed in attack. Argentina's economy faces uncertainty. Venezuela closes embassy in Norway. NATO submarine incident reveals weakness. Israel gymnasts denied visas. Trump's Gaza deal a shift in regional dynamics. Recent developments surrounding the Gaza ceasefire highlight a significant shift in regional dynamics, largely driven by President Donald Trump's intervention and subsequent efforts to shape the post-conflict landscape. The core of the situation revolves around the successful negotiation of a cessation of hostilities between Israel and Hamas, a feat achieved through Trump's active engagement and leveraging of diplomatic relationships. This breakthrough, however, is accompanied by considerable uncertainty regarding the long-term implications and the potential for a sustainable peace. Trump's immediate focus is on translating the ceasefire into a broader regional realignment. He envisions a transformed Middle East, predicated on expanded Abraham Accords and the resolution of historic enmities. A key element of this vision involves incorporating Iran into the regional framework, a goal that requires securing buy-in from Arab leaders, particularly Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who demand assurances of an eventual Palestinian state. The success of this endeavor hinges on navigating the complex relationship with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who, despite acknowledging the victory, remains resistant to fully committing to the broader regional ambitions. Trump's efforts include advocating for a pardon for Netanyahu amid his ongoing corruption trial, demonstrating a willingness to engage in domestic political maneuvering. Furthermore, Trump is actively mobilizing financial resources from Gulf nations to rebuild Gaza, while his envoys, including Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, are working to implement the next phase of the deal. The creation of a board of peace, comprised of international representatives, is intended to oversee the reconstruction process and ensure a stable transition. Despite the immediate success of the ceasefire, the long-term prospects remain uncertain. Netanyahu's reluctance to fully embrace the broader vision, coupled with the need for Arab leaders to endorse a Palestinian state, presents significant obstacles. Trump's strategy aims to capitalize on this moment, but the ultimate outcome will depend on the ability to bridge these divides and forge a lasting peace agreement. The situation underscores the complexities of conflict resolution and the challenges of achieving a sustainable resolution in a region with deeply entrenched historical and political divisions. Madagascar plunged into crisis as military seizes control. Madagascar is currently experiencing a severe political crisis as the powerful military unit, CAPSAT, effectively assumes control following a series of escalating events. The unit, led by the newly appointed Chief of Army Staff, Gen Demosthene Piculas, has undermined President Andry Rajoelina's authority, with CAPSAT officers joining nationwide protests. Opposition leader Sami Awami reports that CAPSAT now runs the country, citing the unit's influence in selecting the new army chief. President Rajoelina, who has been the subject of assassination attempts and coup attempts, is currently sheltering in an undisclosed location, claiming he was forced to do so. He has been absent since Wednesday, and his attempts to placate widespread protests, led by young demonstrators dubbed Gen Z Mada, have failed. The protests, fueled by anger over water and power cuts, unemployment, corruption, and the cost of living crisis, have significantly destabilized the nation. CAPSAT's actions have triggered a power struggle, with the unit attempting to control state television headquarters. The African Union Security Council has strongly condemned any unconstitutional change of government and expressed concern over potential foreign interference. Several of Rajoelina's inner circle have fled to Mauritius. The situation is further complicated by the involvement of international actors. France has refused to confirm whether Rajoelina was evacuated by a French military aircraft, emphasizing the need to preserve the constitutional order. The unrest mirrors previous uprisings since Madagascar's independence in 1960, including a 2009 protest that led to Rajoelina's initial rise to power. Madagascar, a nation with abundant natural resources, remains one of the world's poorest, with 75% of its population living below the poverty line and limited access to electricity. At least 22 people have been killed and over 100 injured during the protests, according to the UN. The instability reflects deep-seated issues within the country, including corruption and economic hardship, further complicated by the military's assertive role in shaping the nation's political landscape. Rajoelina, who previously served as Africa's youngest leader, faces an uncertain future amidst the ongoing crisis. Dutch government seizes control of China-owned Nexperia chip firm. The Dutch government has taken decisive action, assuming control of Nexperia, a prominent chipmaker with operations globally, including facilities in the UK and China. This unprecedented move stems from serious concerns regarding the firm's governance, and to ensure the uninterrupted supply of semiconductors vital for automotive and broader electronic industries within Europe. The Hague's decision was driven by immediate threats to European economic security and the potential for critical chip shortages. The primary catalyst for this intervention is Wingtech's ownership of Nexperia, which prompted the U.S. government to place the company on its entity list in December 2024. This designation restricts American companies from exporting goods to Wingtech without specific governmental authorization. The UK government subsequently compelled Nexperia to divest its Newport chip plant due to national security anxieties. The Dutch Economic Ministry deemed the situation acute signals of serious governance shortcomings within Nexperia as a threat to crucial technological expertise and capabilities on Dutch and European soil. The ministry emphasized that losing these capabilities could jeopardize European economic security. The specific reasons behind the ministry's assessment remain undisclosed, with a spokesperson stating that no further information would be shared. Wingtech has responded by announcing intentions to safeguard its rights and seek governmental support. The situation highlights escalating tensions between the European Union and China, particularly concerning trade relations and Beijing's ties with Russia. The Dutch government's intervention underscores a broader strategy to bolster European technological independence and resilience against potential supply chain vulnerabilities. The move is a significant step in protecting Europe's strategic interests within the semiconductor industry. U.S.-China trade war escalates with Newport fees and sanctions, and tensions between the United States and China have intensified with the implementation of Newport fees, targeting each other's vessels, alongside further sanctions, marking a significant escalation in their trade war. Following Beijing's announcement of levies on U.S.-owned ships designed to counter discriminatory port charges, U.S. President Donald Trump responded with a threat of a 100% tariff on Chinese goods. The core of the dispute centers around U.S. accusations that China's port fees are intended to unfairly support American shipping companies. In retaliation, China has imposed its own fees on U.S.-linked ships, charging 400 yuan or 4,256 per net ton. These fees will increase annually, reaching 120 yuan per ton by 2028, impacting vessels carrying dry bulk cargoes, potentially costing up to $3 million per ship by 2028. Furthermore, the U.S. implemented new tariffs on imported timber, kitchen cabinets, and upholstered furniture, largely originating from China. This action coincided with the addition of 5 U.S. subsidiaries of South Korean shipbuilder Hanwha Ocean to China's sanction list, further escalating the conflict. Despite earlier agreements to drop triple-digit tariffs, the current developments indicate a breakdown in negotiations. Both sides remain committed to a confrontational approach, with China asserting its willingness to fight to the end while maintaining open lines of communication. Freight analysts predict significant financial burdens for the shipping industry, particularly concerning dry bulk cargoes. The exemption for Chinese-built vessels, which comprise nearly half of the global dry bulk fleet, partially mitigates the impact. However, the escalating measures underscore the persistent challenges in resolving the trade dispute, with substantial financial consequences anticipated for both economies. The situation remains fluid, with ongoing threats of reciprocal tariffs and further sanctions. Trump may provide Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles amid escalating tensions. U.S. President Donald Trump is considering supplying Ukraine with Tomahawk cruise missiles, a move that would significantly escalate the ongoing conflict with Russia. This development follows a weekend phone call between Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, during which Zelensky advocated for increased military support, specifically focusing on air defense and long-range capabilities. Trump's response to Zelensky's request was ambiguous, stating, "We'll see, I may," regarding the provision of Tomahawks. He emphasized that such a move would represent a new step of aggression in the war. The Tomahawk missiles, with a range of 500 kilometers S-1 500 miles, would place Moscow within reach, intensifying the strategic implications of the conflict. Russia has repeatedly warned against supplying these missiles to Ukraine, fearing a major escalation of tensions and a detrimental impact on U.S.-Russian relations. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov expressed extreme concern regarding the potential delivery of Tomahawks, highlighting the currently dramatic moment in the conflict. Peskov pointed out that Russia would be unable to determine if the missiles carried nuclear warheads, further amplifying the potential for escalation. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev amplified Peskov's concerns, stating exactly on social media, adding that the delivery of Tomahawks could end badly for everyone, and first of all for Trump himself. This reflects a history of online sparring between Trump and Medvedev. Ukraine has persistently requested long-range missiles, seeking to strike Russian cities beyond the immediate battlefields as they weigh up launching counterattacks. The prospect of Tomahawks represents a substantial shift in U.S. policy, and Moscow's reaction underscores the high stakes involved in the conflict. The situation remains fluid, with both sides prepared to respond to any perceived escalation. The delivery of these missiles could fundamentally alter the dynamic of the war, and the potential consequences are considerable. Russia's fuel shortages and the Gaza conflict. A BBC verification update. The BBC Verify Live team is currently focusing on two significant and interconnected developments: escalating fuel shortages within Russia and the ongoing conflict in Gaza, specifically examining the actions of Hamas and other armed groups. Initial reporting centered on reader inquiries regarding verified footage of extensive queues observed outside fuel stations across Russia, a clear indicator of the growing supply crisis. Experts consulted by the team confirmed that Ukrainian strikes targeting key infrastructure, including fuel depots and pipelines, are the primary driver of this disruption. These strikes are strategically aimed at crippling Russia's ability to supply its military and economy. Simultaneously, the team is investigating the complex dynamics within Gaza. Following a public execution carried out by Hamas, the BBC is verifying the footage and assessing the influence of various armed groups, including Hamas and others, who are competing for control of the territory following a partial Israeli troop withdrawal. This investigation involves scrutinizing the actions of these groups and determining the extent of their power and control within the Strip. The BBC Verify Live team is dedicating resources to both stories, utilizing social media monitoring to deepen their understanding of the situation in both Russia and Gaza. The team's commitment is to provide accurate and verified information to the public, addressing circulating claims and offering fact-checking services. The live page will continue to update as new information emerges, prioritizing the verification of critical events and the dissemination of reliable insights to the global audience. The team's approach emphasizes a multifaceted investigation, recognizing the interconnectedness of these crises and the importance of rigorous verification in a rapidly evolving environment. Tories pursue prosecution restart amidst national security concerns. The Conservative Party is actively seeking to restart prosecutions against Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry, two men accused of spying for China, despite their acquittal in September. The core issue centers around the collapse of the original case, initially brought under the Official Secrets Act during the previous Conservative administration, due to a legal precedent established by a prior spying case. The CPS determined that the government's failure to classify China as a threat to national security at the time of the alleged offenses prevented prosecution. Pressure on the Crown Prosecution Service, CPSF, intensified with a letter from Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp and Shadow Cabinet Office Minister Alex Burgard, requesting confirmation of the CPS's ability to resume the prosecution if the government provided requested evidence. The acquittal hinged on the fact that the Official Secrets Act, under which the men were charged, doesn't allow for double jeopardy prosecutions. The Conservatives are focusing scrutiny on the role of National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell, questioning his involvement and demanding answers. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has expressed confidence in Powell's performance. Security Minister Dan Jarvis clarified that Powell did not influence the evidence provided, emphasizing that Deputy National Security Advisor Matthew Collins submitted witness statements, initially during the Conservative government and subsequently under the Labour government. Jarvis defended the government's actions, attributing the case's collapse to the previous government's delayed efforts to update national security legislation and a failure to formally classify China as a threat. Conservative Party spokesperson Badenoch accused the government of deliberately collapsing the case to favor China. The Liberal Democrats have called for full transparency, demanding the publication of all correspondence between Collins and the CPS. The National Security Act of 2023, introduced by the current Labour government, aims to close loopholes exposed by the case. Despite this, the Conservatives maintain that the government's delay in providing crucial information to the CPS was a key factor in the collapse of the prosecution, raising concerns about potential obstruction and prioritizing diplomatic relations with China over national security considerations. The The situation highlights a significant legal and political challenge regarding national security investigations and the government's approach to intelligence gathering. China spy case collapse, a political controversy unfolds. The collapse of a high-profile espionage case involving Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry has ignited a significant political controversy in the UK. Initially charged under the Official Secrets Act with gathering information prejudicial to the state between 2021 and 2023, the charges were unexpectedly dropped just weeks before the trial was scheduled to commence. The core of the issue revolves around the Crown Prosecution Service's CPS inability to secure sufficient evidence, specifically concerning China's designation as a national security threat at the time of the alleged offenses. Head of the CPS, Stephen Parkinson, stated that despite initial evidence, a precedent established in a previous spying case required a formal national security threat designation, which the CPS was unable to obtain after months of attempts. This triggered intense scrutiny and accusations of political interference. The government, led by Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, maintains the decision rests solely with the CPS. However, opposition leader Kemi Badenoch contends that the Prime Minister, through his National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell, deliberately hampered the prosecution by failing to provide crucial evidence. Badenoch suggests Powell's efforts to foster closer relations with Beijing influenced the situation. Critics point to numerous instances of Chinese activity posing a threat to the UK during the relevant period, arguing that these could have been presented as evidence. Former Conservative ministers and advisors corroborate this claim, asserting that no official designation existed. The collapse has fueled accusations that the government is prioritizing trade relations with China over national security concerns. The Labour Party, under Prime Minister Starmer, has been actively pursuing closer trade ties with China, a strategy that has drawn criticism. The situation has become a focal point for the opposition, with Badenoch accusing the government of weakness in addressing a critical national security matter. The controversy highlights tensions between diplomatic objectives and safeguarding national security interests. The government's denial of any involvement, coupled with the opposition's accusations, underscores the complexity of the situation and its potential implications for the UK's approach to China. ASEAN leaders to facilitate Thailand-Cambodia ceasefire via Malaysia, with the support of the United States, is spearheading efforts to secure a ceasefire agreement between Thailand and Cambodia following a devastating 5-day conflict along their disputed border. Malaysian Foreign Minister Muhammad Hassan announced that the United States, specifically President Donald Trump, will attend the upcoming ASEAN Leaders Summit in Kuala Lumpur from October 26 to 28. The summit's primary objective is to facilitate the signing of the Kuala Lumpur Accord, a declaration intended to establish a lasting ceasefire and promote peace between the neighboring nations. The conflict, which commenced in July, stemmed from long-standing disagreements over undemarcated sections of their 817-kilometer border. The fighting resulted in at least 48 fatalities and the displacement of hundreds of thousands of people on both sides. This represents the most significant military confrontation between Thailand and Cambodia in over a decade. President Trump's presence at the summit is considered crucial to the success of the negotiations. His involvement underscores the international community's concern regarding the escalating tensions and its desire to see a swift resolution. The Kuala Lumpur Accord is expected to address the underlying issues contributing to the border disputes, although the specific terms remain undisclosed. The ASEAN summit represents a pivotal opportunity for regional diplomacy and a concerted effort to de-escalate the situation. The hope is that the agreement will pave the way for further dialogue and a permanent solution to the long-standing border disagreements, bringing an end to the hostilities and allowing for the return to normalcy for the affected communities. The Malaysian government is actively working to ensure a productive summit and the successful implementation of the Kuala Lumpur Accord. Cameroon election incumbency challenges amidst discontent and security concerns. The Cameroonian presidential election concluded on Sunday, with incumbent Paul Biya seeking his 8th consecutive term, a remarkable feat considering his age of 92, and the next election is not until 2032. The final election results are anticipated within 15 days, marking a crucial period for the nation. While the Interior Minister, Palatanga NG, asserted that voting proceeded hitch-free across all 10 regions, significant challenges and tensions emerged. Opposition candidates, including the widely recognized main challenger, Maurice Kamto, faced obstacles leading up to the vote. The Constitutional Council's earlier decision to bar Kamto from participation fueled discontent, and subsequent clashes between supporters of candidate Issa Chiroma Bakary and security forces in Tikaroma's stronghold of Garoa underscored the volatile political climate. Karoma reported receiving threats and declared his intention to remain at home, fearing potential abduction. The election was complicated by separatist movements in Cameroon's Anglophone regions, where attempts to discourage voting were made, though some residents did participate out of caution. Many others remained absent due to fears of retribution. Furthermore, concerns arose regarding alleged attempts by presidential candidates to prematurely announce election results, a violation that the Interior Minister deemed a major red line and vowed to prosecute. The situation in Garoua, characterized by violent confrontations and threats, remains a focal point of concern, demanding careful observation as the official results are awaited. The potential for further unrest and the challenges to the electoral process highlight the complexities of Cameroon's political landscape during this pivotal election. The outcome will significantly shape the country's future trajectory. A Kenyan police officer killed in bow and arrow attack at State House. A Kenyan police officer, Bezalilio Rukanga, was fatally shot with a bow and arrow at the gate of the president's official residence, State House, in Nairobi on Monday morning. The 56-year-old officer, PC Ramadan Matanka, was immediately rushed to a hospital but succumbed to his injuries while receiving treatment. The incident occurred when a man, disguised as a homeless person, carrying a concealed sack containing bow and arrows, approached the gate and was ordered to surrender. He disregarded the order and fired at PC Matanka. Following the attack, the alleged assailant was apprehended by police and taken into custody. Local media reported that the man had been previously involved in screening vehicles entering State House. Police have launched an investigation to determine the motive behind the attack. The National Police Service expressed their condemnation of the heinous act and commended the officers' swift response, which prevented further harm. Police spokesperson Macheri Nyaga extended condolences to the family of PC Matanka, highlighting the officer's ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. The deceased officer's body is currently in a mortuary, where a post-mortem examination will be conducted. The suspect is expected to appear in court on Tuesday, where he will face charges related to the attack. The incident has raised serious concerns about security protocols surrounding State House, given its status as one of Kenya's most heavily guarded locations. The investigation is ongoing, with authorities focusing on establishing the suspect's background and intentions. The suspect's arrest marks a significant security breach, prompting a review of security measures at the presidential residence. Argentina's radical economic shift, a complex and uncertain future. Javier Milei's presidency in Argentina is marked by a dramatic, Thatcherite economic overhaul, characterized by drastic austerity measures aimed at curbing government spending and inflation. Initially, Milei's policies, including slashing subsidies and reducing the size of government, achieved notable macroeconomic successes, notably bringing inflation down from triple-digit levels and achieving a fiscal surplus for the first time in 14 years. This success garnered international attention, including a $20 billion swap from the United States, bolstering confidence in the Argentine economy and attracting foreign investment. However, this success is intertwined with significant social and economic challenges. The rapid implementation of these reforms has triggered widespread protests and hardship, particularly among lower-income groups. Critics argue that the cuts to social programs, healthcare, education, and pensions have exacerbated poverty and inequality, while failing to address the underlying structural issues. The reduction in minimum prices for key agricultural products, like yerba mate, has negatively impacted local producers and rural communities. Despite the initial economic improvements, Milei's policies have faced considerable political opposition and have raised concerns about long-term sustainability. The midterm elections saw a significant loss for Milei's party, reflecting public discontent and highlighting the challenges of implementing such radical changes. The reliance on foreign support, particularly from the United States, creates a vulnerability, and the upcoming debt repayments in 2024 remain a significant risk. Furthermore, the shift has created a polarized political landscape, with some economists arguing that the stability achieved is a temporary mirage, while others believe it offers a model for other countries. The potential for social unrest and the uncertain trajectory of the Argentine economy remain key concerns. The future of Argentina hinges on Milei's ability to navigate these complex challenges and maintain public support amidst considerable economic and social upheaval. The long-term effects of his policies are yet to be fully determined, leaving the country's economic future uncertain. Venezuela closes embassy in Norway following Nobel award. Venezuela has taken the unprecedented step of closing its embassy in Norway following the awarding of the Nobel Peace Prize to opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. The decision, announced days after Machado's recognition, has been described by Norway's foreign ministry as regrettable, despite ongoing differences in opinion between the two nations. Venezuela's government, under President Nicolas Maduro, dismissed the prize, labeling Makaido a demonic witch, and attributed the embassy closure to a broader restructuring of its foreign service. The move represents a significant diplomatic blow, particularly given Norway's long-standing commitment to dialogue with Caracas. The Norwegian Foreign Ministry emphasized its desire to maintain open communication, asserting the Nobel Peace Prize's independence from governmental influence. Makaido, living in hiding for much of the past year due to her opposition to Maduro's rule, described the award as a vital injection of energy and hope for the Venezuelan people. Simultaneously, Venezuela has implemented a strategic shift, closing its embassy in Australia while establishing new diplomatic outposts in Zimbabwe and Burkina Faso, branding them strategic partners in the fight against perceived hegemonic pressures. This move coincides with heightened tensions between Caracas and Washington, fueled by the U.S. military's destruction of boats allegedly carrying narcotics from Venezuela to the United States, resulting in at least 21 fatalities. These actions have drawn condemnation internationally, with some legal experts arguing they constitute a breach of international law. Historically, Norway experienced a similar diplomatic setback in 2010, when China suspended relations following Liu Xiaobo's Nobel Prize. This latest situation underscores the potential repercussions associated with recognizing opposition figures challenging authoritarian regimes, highlighting the delicate balance between international recognition and national sovereignty. The Venezuelan government's actions demonstrate a resolute stance against the Nobel Committee's judgment, while Norway continues to advocate for dialogue and respect for democratic principles within Venezuela. NATO submarine incident. Russia's naval weakness exposed. Recent events involving a Russian submarine, the Novorossiysk, highlight a concerning trend within the Russian Navy's capabilities and strategic positioning. The Royal Navy tracked the submarine's journey through the English Channel, initially shadowed by a UK warship and helicopter, revealing a vessel described by NATO Chief Mark Rudd as limping home, reminiscent of a broken machine. This incident follows reports of fuel leaks within the submarine's hold, as revealed by VCKO-GPU, raising serious concerns about potential operational issues. The Russian Black Sea Fleet initially denied technical problems, characterizing the surfacing as a scheduled inter-fleet transit, and dismissing media reports as inaccurate. However, the Navy's actions requiring the submarine to surface in the channel contradict international navigation regulations, which mandate surface operation in this area. The tracking operation involved joint NATO efforts, with HMS Iron Duke monitoring the Novorossiysk and its support tug as they passed through the channel and into the North Sea. This demonstrates a clear response to perceived Russian activity. Furthermore, this incident comes after the Royal Navy tracked a Russian frigate and cargo vessel through the channel just 2 weeks prior. The situation underscores a broader weakening of Russia's naval presence in the Mediterranean, as noted by Rutt, with a significant reduction in Russian naval activity. The reported fuel leak adds another layer of vulnerability to the submarine's operational readiness. The Navy's tracking operation serves as a display of strength and solidarity with NATO allies, particularly in countering Russian aggression. Notably, a BBC Verify investigation in June uncovered a similar incident involving a Russian warship disguised with a false ID signal, alongside 2 sanctioned oil tankers, demonstrating continued attempts to circumvent sanctions. These events collectively paint a picture of a Russian Navy facing operational challenges and strategic vulnerabilities, prompting a robust response from NATO forces. Israel Gymnasts denied visas for World Championships amidst historical precedents. The International Gymnastics Federation, IGF, has launched a formal complaint against Indonesia, alleging a blatant violation of sporting regulations following the denial of visas to Israeli athletes participating in the World Artistic Gymnastics Championships. The championships, scheduled to conclude on October 25th, have been marred by this controversial decision, prompting the IGF to seek intervention from the Court of Arbitration for Sport case. The IGF contends that the Indonesian government's refusal to grant visas constitutes a denial of justice and discriminatory action against a member association. The FIG, however, defended its position, asserting it has no authority over visa issuance, placing the responsibility solely with the Indonesian government. This situation echoes a historical pattern of discrimination against Israeli athletes in international sports. Indonesia's decision follows a similar incident in 2023, when the country was stripped of hosting the Under-20 World Cup due to the refusal to allow the Israeli team to compete, Furthermore, Indonesia's actions mirror a boycott in 1964, stemming from the refusal to grant visas to Israeli athletes for the 1962 Asian Games, a decision that was later overturned but resulted in a boycott of the Games. 6 Israeli gymnasts, including multiple Olympic and European champion Ron Dolgopiat, submitted a request to CAS alongside the IGF. The team's disappointment is palpable, with Dolgopiat expressing concern about the potential negative impact on future delegations and the broader sport landscape. The IGF remains steadfast in its demand for justice and fair competition, highlighting the fundamental breach of sporting principles caused by Indonesia's actions. The ongoing dispute underscores the continued challenges faced by Israel in accessing international sporting events, rooted in complex geopolitical factors and historical precedents.